thank you again for your time and opening up this property. I have some questions. So they were in our training yesterday. So kind of like peeling back the onion a little bit.
Sure.
I want to get inside of your brain. So you've had this listed for how long?
Well, we started marketing it last summer, but we didn't do a heavy push because of the weather, right? We knew that spring would be our big time to kind of reach the masses. So we started marketing the end of last summer.
Okay.
And we've been slowly bringing people out here. We've had 2 events planned that the weather has tackled our plans. So we've got
You know about that. We lost some people that.
Well, and I'm glad that you stuck with us because I was worried that this would even happen. But,
Thank you for sticking with us.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
So 16.9 million, is that your suggested price?
We know that it's a little bit of an elevated price, but if you get to know the market around here, you'll see that this is a gem. There isn't anything like it. So if you were going to take it apart, put it together, build the house, do all the land planning, add the well is extraordinary, by the way. If you were going to put it all together, even if you could find the space, it would be challenging, it would be time consuming, the permitting, everything. So we know we've got an elevated price, but we think it's worth it.
And that's okay. I'm just kind of curious. One of the things we're talking about is how it's difficult to price unique properties when there's no comparables, right? There's cost approach, there's replacement, there's, hey, let's figure out what the dirt is worth, let's figure out what the actual building's worth. So how much activity have you had? How many qualified showings? And talk to me about the qualification process of what you do to qualify an agent and a buyer.
So I want to touch real quickly on what you said. So I list and work with really high-end buyers and sellers in Austin. And so we've really gone, or I have taken a different approach with how I list things. Supply and demand is a huge issue right now. And we have so many, I think I'm working with 54 California buyers. And when you have budgets like that, the expectations are a little bit different. Everyone thinks they're moving to Texas with all this land. And in Austin, if you get a third of an acre in central Austin, it's like a hooray. So sometimes we're listing prices and we know they are a little high, but we also know it's a trophy property and there isn't anything like it. And so when I personally list something, I test the waters at a price that I can justify based on other things I've sold. Probably most people don't even know about it, so much is trading off market. And so I kind of approach it like, hey, let's try it. Why not? We don't want to leave money on the table if you represent the seller, right? So that's something to be said about that. If you want to talk to me more about that, I'm happy to help you understand how I'm strategizing and succeeding in this market where the inventory is low. I've been blessed to work with incredible, really high net worth individuals, and so I've learned along the way. And I'll tell you, and I'll say that in some regards, you have to be careful because if you price it too high, the richest man in the world isn't going to be absurd with how he spends his money. He's rich because he knows how to spend his money. So there's a fine balance with that. So I don't want to present that you just go stamp a tag on it and hope it's going to sell. You have to be able to back it up somehow.
How much showing? How many activities?
We have had probably 5 or 6 people come through. I don't show it without making sure people are pre-qualified. I've learned my lesson that way. And I think pre-qualification is tricky. It's more than just a piece of paper, and I really encourage you to make sure. We've had a couple of, I've had 3 complete con artists in my 17-year career who, and I don't know if they're just wasting their time or if it's fun for them. It's not like we're going to turn over the house without the money.
Same thing. So that's kind of why I wanted to ask you, because everybody's a little bit different. So, are you verifying? Are you calling the lender? Are you calling the banker? Right? Just say, they don't have to share confidential information, but they're calling to say they in fact wrote this, they dated it, that's their signature.
Absolutely. And a lot of the people who could afford a property like this, it's not just a pre-qual letter. They've got a manager, or they've got an accountant, or they've got a financial planner in place. And so I always make sure that I speak to someone to verify, and also to verify the identity. It's tricky. And then I'm also very careful about when they come and the privacy of that. And sometimes we do non-disclosures, and that can protect your buyers and your sellers.
Good.
Huge. I love your market.
Without sharing your sweet sauce on this, how did they contact you, or how did?
Well, my seller, the beautiful Amanda, is over there.
Oh, hi Amanda, how are you? Let's hear it for Amanda.
Woo!
Amanda, I'm from Chicago. We have 3 states represented. We got Omaha, Nebraska, but primarily a lot of Texans here. So we have Austin, we have some Houston, we got Dallas representing here. Okay. So So thank you for opening your beautiful home to us. And,
welcome. Well, can I tell everybody one thing? I have border collies, and they're right here in that door, so don't open it.
No problem.
That's my teenage son's bedroom, so you might.
Awesome. So hey, in all honesty, if you don't mind sharing, like, you know, what went into you with deciding a real estate agent? Obviously, Sotheby is an amazing brand, but you have different agents at Sotheby. So if you're comfortable answering this, because these are all aspiring agents trying to represent luxury in their given market. Luxury is different all across the world, as you know. So I'd love to hear from you as a consumer.
I started looking at production, the sales production.
Yep.
That was the first thing I started looking into.
Sure.
And of course, I like to see kind faces, and then I also like to see they respond back quickly, and they actually care. And so I had several that I was thinking about listing with, but they didn't get back to me.
Sure.
And so then Bridget got back to me immediately, like literally calls me up, and then we start talking. And of course, her phone etiquette is amazing, and so.
I just met her, but she's so likable and talkable.
Yeah. And then she said, "What property is that again? Explain to me where it's at. What's the address?" And we were just, talking, and she goes, "Oh, one of my friends used to own that property." And I said, "What?" And so it was kind of a, godsend. Yeah.
Good. So you had that connection.
Yeah, and so we had a good connection right there. So I knew she was the one for sure.
So-
I think that was my first, was looking at production and
Okay.
trying to response to her.
And then you hit it off. You felt comfortable, and you had that trust, and obviously she had the data to present. So.
And you already had homework with it.
Well, what was really interesting is some of my best friends and clients owned the house before, and I've stayed in this house. I mean, I'm going to stay there again with Amanda, but I'd already lived in the house. And what I want to say to agents who, or if you're in the luxury market or in real estate in general, and I think Amanda, we can attest to this, and I can tell you one of the main reasons for my success is relationship. Care about your clients. It's a paycheck to you, but it's the next chapter for them. There's so much emotion, and I care about her. I care about her next chapter. I care about her boys, and that's what, it's an honor to represent this house, but it's an honor to represent her family. And that's the difference, I think, in a lot of agents.
You bring up a good point. If you've recently bought or sold your own residence, I think you're more empathetic about, you got 2 border collies, and the amount of time to get a home like this prepared, pre-qualifying. I assume you don't even reach out to her unless you've done all your due diligence, and then you let her know about it. Because the last thing you want to do is get Amanda excited, like, hey, there's a showing, and then you find out that they're not qualified. Amanda, a lot of these people here are newer to real estate, and I'm the founder of the designation they just took, and there's another designation out there, and my good friends from Nebraska talked about in that course. They talked a lot about say this, don't say this, and language. Do you believe just authenticity when you're talking to people? We were having wine the other day in downtown Fredericksburg, and somebody said that's the beautiful thing about Fredericksburg is you can talk to somebody that doesn't have much money, and they could be sitting next to a millionaire, which could be sitting next to a billionaire, and you don't know it. So.
Red Book of Sales, has anybody read it? The Red Book of Sales. I was a salesperson. I also am a real estate agent, but I don't take my license now. But that's important, and being authentic, very much so. I mean, you're either gonna click or not, and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it.
And that was my advice. I said, don't even think. As soon as you start thinking I should say this, instead, you're not being your true self.
I'll tell you something that I've learned. Of course, I do the pre-qual, but as soon as and I'm not that cool, so sometimes I get celebrity clients. I'm like, who? I have an assistant who does a lot of digging for me. Obviously, we do the pre-qual, but I don't Google my clients because I don't want that preconceived notion of who they are. And I'm telling you, if I told you a couple of names, you'd be like, you didn't know who that was? I really didn't. But even after I knew they were big, I don't Google them because I want to show up authentic. I want them to show up authentic to me, and then that helps me do my job better. I don't want to go trying to, oh yeah, you like sports.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So I try to go in that way. And
I appreciate the perspective because I actually teach the exact opposite, but it's good to hear. No, I'm not saying I'm right. So it's good to hear the reason behind it.
I mean, I'm not saying I've never done it, but I don't do this big dive,
Sure.
I might want to make sure they're
stalking them.
Yeah, or if I'm not getting enough information from, say, the manager, and I just want to know how many kiddos they have, so I can figure out what I'm showing. But I think it's real important to just try to be authentic, but let yourself breathe into them authentically too.
Great. So one of the things that I really like about, that you just talked about the potential of this property, when you have a unique property, right, you don't know what the end user is going to want to utilize it for, right? You talked about bed and breakfast, hotel, you talked about multiple properties like a family compound. So looking at the potential, so as a consultant, as an advisor, you want to put your personal preferences aside, because let's just say you think this would be perfect for the family compound, and that's what you push, but maybe somebody else is looking at it for an end use differently. So our job is to present options and let the consumer ultimately decide what they want. So I'm glad that you pointed out all of this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll never forget one of my first, it was like $1.5 million buyer, and I walk in, and right about the time I was about to say, we can fix that backsplash, it is dreadful. Both husband and wife were like, love the backsplash, so I learned to just keep my mouth shut sometimes.
Yes.
Insert foot in mouth here.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Anything you want to point out before we, we let them go in? Amanda, are you okay with them taking photos and doing some video?
Well, and I often, you often don't bug sellers to stay, but Amanda's father built the house. She is a plethora of information and knowledge about the details of the house. So Amanda, if it's okay if people approach you, and then feel free to ask me. If we think anybody, if you want to walk around, I mean, obviously we don't want, where are the horses these days? They're over there. We don't, please don't get in the area with the horses.
It's cold
but-
out. These folks
Yeah.
down here, they don't.
But it's kind of nice just to take a look around and to see the privacy. With my high-end buyers, there are a few things that are number one. There has to be privacy, there has to be security. So this is one of the wonderful aspects of this. You get a house that's ready, you get a writing arena, you have guest quarters in case you have in-laws that you don't want to be on your property, in case you have staff.
Outlaws, we call them
Outlaws,
outlaws.
unless you have outlaws. So kind of just take a big overall view of the property, and you can kind of see just how special it is. And then if any of you ever want to come back for a preview, certainly if you have clients, we can go into it maybe when it's not 32 degrees.
Yeah. So there was a young lady that attended yesterday. She was a former head of Keller Williams Luxury. I'll connect you. She's got a client that might be interested. She couldn't make it here today, but
I told you about her yesterday.
yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. So
She
we'll,
wants all the
Yeah, wonderful. Well, it's great to have all of you. Congratulations on these designations are so important. But luxury, I mean, even Little Austin, Texas, I mean, it's changing, and our world is changing, and this area is blowing up. Amanda and I were just talking about this. With everyone moving to Texas, even some of my clients, they may buy in Austin proper, but then they want a ranch. So it's exciting.
We just came from the boot ranch, and same thing. A lot of secondary living there. So thank you, Amanda, for opening up this amazing property for us. And guys, you can tour this at your own pace. We'll have some of you have to catch a flight, so you can. I'm assuming they can pull out the gates will open automatically on the way out.
Yes.
You stay 6 feet.
Yeah. Amanda, yeah, they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, guys. Make sure if you want to grab a brochure, grab a little sparkly, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
My assistant, by the way, will be sending out your access to Lux University. If you haven't gotten it yet, we'll also send out an email next week with the class photo, okay? So we won't have a formal